Japanese Horror Stories. Master Series. Blood. When I was in the first year of college, I had a master who was on the occult road. He was a man with a mysterious atmosphere that set him apart from just a scary lover. Apart from the master, there was a person who let me touch another world. She is an occult online companion, and a woman named Kayasuk, who I meet even when I'm off. Both were amazing people who seemed to live in a different world from me. Her teacher, girlfriend, was also on the internet, so I was wondering if he had an acquaintance with her through her. Kayasuk says he doesn't know his master. I wanted to see what kind of chemical reaction would occur if the two met. At one point, I talked to my teacher about Kayasuk. "Why don't you meet?" After the teacher groaned with his arms folded. "Did you have an affair if you thought you had a bad relationship lately? I don't want to be jealous of that." However, he was advised, there is nothing wrong with putting your neck in black magic. I was in a black magic forum on the net. When asked, "What are you doing?" he answered, "I don't do much black magic. I've been eating an episode." It happened when he infiltrated a local girls' high school, which is Kayasuk's mother school, but he responded to the name of the girls' high school. Wait, what's the woman's name? Isn't it Kyoko or Chihiro? By the way, I only know the handle name Kayasuk. When I heard the story, when my teacher was just entering university. At a girls' high school in the same city, there was a bizarre incident that was reported in the newspaper. A schoolgirl was transported by ambulance due to severe anemia. A local newspaper bit into it, testifying that her classmates sucked blood and made a bit of a fuss. After that, police announced that they had attempted suicide, and the case itself subsided in the form of a suicide attempt. However, after that, 2 female students were secretly suspended from school. At that time, this incident was hot for us local occult enthusiasts. It was a vampire of XX high. It is true that the secret circle of fortune-telling that was popular in the school was involved, and it was the 2 leaders who were suspended from school. The information I got somewhere was that name. Vampires are crazy. I'm sorry for my teacher, but I was hungry. It's not a laugh. You should stay away from the woman. I was pressed with an unexpectedly serious face. But Kayasuk is not necessarily the person who was suspended. I was just taking a step back and trying to shen it. However, the name Kyoko was strangely left in the corner of my head. Perhaps because it was a local university, there were quite a few people from that high school around me. There was a senior in the same department who was a high school alumnus, so I went out to listen to the story. After all, it seems that he was quite interested in himself. Kyoko-san? Of course I know. One above me. Yes, I was suspended. Somehow Kyoko and Chihiro Yamanaka. It seems that he was sucking blood, saying fortune-telling. Wow, it's good. Both of them are crazy. In particular, Kyoko was rumored to be cursed just by saying her name, even to her junior students. Well, yeah, Kyoko Masaki. I told you. I asked the senior to introduce 2 people who are in the same grade as Kyoko. Both of them were from other faculties, but we got into the coffee shop and the club room of the circle and talked to them. Kyoko-san? That person is dangerous. It seems that he was doing a strange ritual by calling the devil. High school students were so crazy about it. At the beginning, there were quite a few people around me like fortune-telling, but at the end, there were only Kyoko and Chihiro. Because I didn't hear about going out after graduating, wasn't it unexpectedly still in the city? I don't know what you're doing. It's better not to give that name. No, it's true. I'm fine with the child who was in an accident by playfully hitting his back. It's true. Oh yeah. I was short and tall. The face was beautiful, but I didn't want to get close to him, so I didn't seem to have a boyfriend. On the way home from hearing the story, I stepped on the gum. I have a bad feeling. It matches the story of Kayasuk that she has been playing with injured people since high school. Chihiro Yamanaka is probably the leader of the black magic circle that Kayasuk was close to. Kyoko Masaki. The words circulated in her head. For the next few days, I didn't connect to the internet. She was afraid to talk to Kayasuk somehow. She seems to be jerky. In a sense, Kayasuk-san is okay too. She also has herself. He can't be eaten separately. Doesn't it look interesting? However, it was also true that she was a little cautious when 4 people told her to keep away in a short period of time. One day, when I was spending days just putting off such a problem, I stepped on gum while walking down the road. As she rubbed against the edge of the sidewalk, something strange happened. It got dark for a moment and soon became bright again. It wasn't that dark, like getting under the clouds. It's a moment, but it's almost pitch black. The same thing happened again after being frozen on the spot for a while. The surroundings flashed. It was like when I blinked slowly. But of course, I'm not a fool to be surprised by my blinking. I was scared and left the place. Next time was when I was brushing my teeth at home. The field of vision was shut down in the dark twice, crackling and crackling. I was surprised and drank something in my mouth. That continued for a few days, and when I became a little nervous, I cried at my master. The teacher said, "That's why I said it. Even if such a thing is said." "What is it?" Sniffing around the woman, she noticed over there, it is a clear blink. "What does it mean?" "You have a spiritual vision, right? Have you ever heard that the face of a human being who is looking at you is floating in front of you? It's a little different, but I think that blink is the blink of the viewing side. It is such a fool. Are you watching? The woman is crazy. She should do something about it." "What should I do?" The teacher said, "Why don't you go to apologize?" "Please follow me," he cried, but he wasn't dealt with. I pulled out the treasure sword of the legendary family, "Are you scared?" but was evaded by the word "woman is scared." On the way to Kayasuk's apartment, I was walking on the night road with a tragic resolution. The bicycle had a flat tire. I don't feel like a coincidence. I stepped on the gum again. I don't feel like a coincidence. I tried to rub my shoes on the ground and suddenly looked at the back of my shoes. My heart was about to stop. Nothing was attached. Far from gum, no mud or dirt. So what is the feeling of being pulled on the soles of your feet? The gum that I started to step on after I started sniffing about Kyoko. Maybe it wasn't all gum? A blink that wasn't mine struck me when I stopped. At the tip of the world closing from above, I felt that I could see a long black object for a moment. Eyelashes? When I thought so, I ran away. "Please let me go." I ran to the apartment, screaming in my heart. After ringing the chime, the door opened with a dull voice, "Wow. I'm sorry." Kayasuk looked down at me and immediately crouched down. He said, "Why is it a Jesus suddenly?" Put it in anyway, and was put up in the room. I should have talked about what I've done so far, half crying and apologizing, but I don't remember much. After listening to a story that doesn't get my point. Kayasuk sighed and sneaked into his jeans pocket and took out his motorcycle license from his wallet. Chihiro Yamanaka. It was written that way. On the goofy side, I said, because I'm tall and short. I've been long in high school. Are you stupid? Then, Kyoko Masaki is. You're deadly. You should stay away from him. I was relieved somewhere, and soon I got goosebumps. It is said that the beginning was just fortune-telling. If you're a girl, you've probably been addicted to it when you were in elementary school or junior high school. If you become a child who is enthusiastic about fortune-telling even in high school, the method of fortune-telling will become maniac. It is said that it is a little disgusting on the sidelines. Kayasuk was one of those disgusting children, and he used to do simple fortune-telling mainly using tarot every break. Eventually, a transient fortune-telling boom occurred in the school, and fortune-telling groups were born here and there. Kayasuk, who has been fond of fortune-telling since he was a child, has a wealth of knowledge, and has come to be loved by many students. From tarot and card fortune-telling, some elaborate groups using horoscopes and Kabbalahs have begun to emerge. Among them, a group that does insidious things that can be called a black magic system appears. The boss was a student named Kyoko Masaki. Kayasuke and Kyoko Masaki acknowledged each other and restrained each other. It can be said that they were good friends and hated each other, and it was a relationship that could not be expressed in a single word. One day, Kayasuke noticed a scratch on the wrist of a classmate. When asked, it was necessary for Kyoko Masaki to forge. When she flew to Kyoko Masaki herself, she said with a cool face, "Fortune-telling with blood." She cuts her fingertips and wrists with a razor, bleeds on paper, and understands the meaning of the pattern. She said, "I don't admit that fortune-telling," but her entourage treated her as you're old. After that, no student left a scar on her wrist or fingertips, but blood fortune-telling seemed to continue. In the end, it just stopped taking blood from the prominent places. When fortune-telling became so popular, the self-consciousness of wanting to do something different from other children was born, and as a result of seeking something deeper. It seemed that they were sucked in one after another by the gravity source called Kyoko Masaki, who responded to it. Kyoko Masaki's presence in her school was a kind of cult guru, and her words and deeds were even awe-inspiring. The rumor that she was cursed just by giving her name wasn't just afraid of her hellish ears. In fact, she seems to have come from the fact that there are many mysterious accidents around her. One day, a few weeks after Kayasuke learned about blood fortune-telling, one of my classmates suddenly collapsed during the break. When Kayasuke, who was by her side, hugged her, she said, "It's okay, it's okay." She tries to leave as if nothing had happened. She shook Kayasuke's hand, saying, "It's not okay," with a strong force. She wasn't left alone when she was told to leave it alone. That child was a believer in Kyoko Masaki. After school that day, Kayasuke went to the second science room. It was also the club room of the biological club, where Kyoko Masaki is the nominal superior. None of the students wanted to step into that corner, even though the figure is sometimes reflected in the window until late at night. Everyone knew that there was no activity as a biological club there. Every time I approach the second science room, I feel the illusion that a strange feeling of intimidation distorts the space in the dim corridor. Perhaps this is a student-only sensation that teachers don't understand. "Kyoko, I'll enter." Kayasuke casually opened the door of such a room. In a dark room with a blackout window down the window, a schoolgirl with her short hair raised further with a hairband was looking into a flask to be boiled. "Oh, it's rare. Are you alone?" The foot toward the table in the back stops for a moment. "This smell. Hey, what are you boiling?" "Homunculus." Kayasuke frowns at Kyoko Masaki, who simply says it. I wonder which idiot said that mixing blood and semen would generate humans. Kyoko Masaki laughed with just her lips and stopped the fire. "Joke. Is this a joke, this smell?" Kayasuke stood in front of the table. I asked the fortune tellers, "What are you doing with the blood you have collected?" The schoolgirl who collapsed in front of her today had a needle mark on the back of her left elbow. It's a trace of blood draining from her veins. There was more than one needle mark. I don't think it's necessary because it's fortune-telling. Kyoko Masaki stared straight at Kayasuke with her sharp eyes. Nothing was emitted from each other, but only time passed in the tense air. Eventually, Kyoko Masaki took out a small glass bottle from her chest pocket and shook her neck. The bottle has a red-black color. "I'm just drinking." She continued to control Kayasuke-san, who was involuntarily screaming. I know more than dropping it on white paper. Lack of sleep, overeating, worries, and relationships with my lover. Is that fortune-telling? While glaring at Kyoko Masaki, who gave up her shoulders, she told her to throw it away. Is it euphoria? I was breathtakingly listening to it, but I caught my mouth. Kayasuke shook his head while emptying beer. No, it's not that good. No fate. I asked back, what? When I think about it now, that word is like Kayasuke-san's habit. It seems that he used the word no fate, that is, not destined, in the sense of Kayasuke-san. I think it can be rephrased as will. In this case, Kyoko Masaki's blood drinking is a manifestation of her own will. Once upon a time, during a biology class, the teacher said, "Eggs come first or chickens come first?" Kyoko, who was in the back seat, suddenly said, "Eggs come first." "What did you say when you asked why?" "Because the egg is the change itself." Kayasuke reached for the next beer. I'm listening to it in a strange way, sitting on the sofa. He has an extraordinary longing for change. It's a different dimension from the adolescent girl's desire to change herself. For example, if a devil appeared in front of you and said, "Let's make you a monster," he would refuse without any hesitation. And maybe say this, "Tell me only how to be." Kyoko Masaki opened her mouth while sprinkling the contents of a teardrop-shaped flask with a strange odor into the drain. Dracula means the son of a dragon. Do you know? Vlad II, king of Wallachia, was a knight of the Holy Roman Empire, nicknamed the Dragon Prince. His son, Vlad III, is a historic slaughterer nicknamed Skewer Dracula because it is a child of Dracal. But he didn't become a dragon. She says with an ecstatic expression. I'm sure I had a strong desire to transform. I want to be a hero's child as well. So, do you intend to transform yourself by imitating the vampire Dracula? Kayasuke said that, and she suddenly stole the glass bottle from her Kyoko Masaki's hand. And when she took off her lid, she poured her contents into her mouth without hesitation. He throws the bottle back to Kyoko Masaki, who is taken aback. It's blood. It's water, iron, and hemoglobin. Do you think you've become something special? Then this is the same for me. Not just you. In the name of fortune-telling, I didn't collect from her classmates to threaten me. You just have to buy it and drink the blood. Kyoko Masaki shines her eyes and smiles at her best, rather than being annoyed by Kayasuke. After all, you are wonderful. And when she tried to approach her with her hands raised to the height of Kayasuke's cheeks, there was a depressing scream called Jaya. Looking back, the door to the entrance, which should have been closed, opens, and several schoolgirls are looking at me with a horrified, cramped face. One of the people who met Kayasuke, who wiped the blood from his mouth, collapsed like it collapsed. Then, while screaming with a gangster, he ran away, as if he was rolling with the child in his arms. The two left in the second science room looked at each other. Eventually, Kyoko Masaki sighs with a sigh of awe and sits her hips on her table. This is the end of this play. I don't say it's your fault. I'm guilty. He says so with a carefree smile, without being afraid. Kayasuke is tired of the annoyances that will happen and sits side by side. I've never been so crazy when I'm with you. Yes, you are completely falsely charged. I drank blood too. It's the same as you. With a happy face when she said "Oh," Kyoko Masaki whispered her lips close to her Kayasuke's ear, which dropped her shoulders. That blood is my blood. The moment I heard that, Kayasuke vomited. I was listening to the story while sitting upright, not making a slight movement. So is it suspension? Kayasuke nods and puts an empty beer can on the table. I think you can see why everyone told me not to approach. A woman named Kyoko Masaki is too dangerous. I haven't had a relationship since I graduated from high school, but what is he transformed into by now? Dangerous. Dangerous. My small animal intuition tells me so. Every time Kayasuke mentioned the name Kyoko Masaki in her memory, I was thrilled. I'm horrified to remember the feeling I've been seeing for a long time. I got too close. I think so. To me, who was scared, Kayasuke pointed to the corner of the room, saying, "Maybe it's okay here." Looking at it, strangely shaped objects made of iron are placed on all sides. A relatively strong barrier. The source is Grimoire of Small Albertus. Something that seems to be a black magic term that I do not understand well came out. Saying it, Kayasuke took out something like a pendant from his chest. Hanging around his neck, it looked like a plate-shaped silver accessory. When asked is it a talisman, he says is it a little different. The Japanese amulet is more like an amulet. This is a talisman. To hear the explanation, amulet is a passive brace, just like a talisman. Talisman seems to be a more active, empowering owner spell. This is the Star of David in Goetia, the most major and most powerful amulet. It's vintage. You, however, have no knowledge at all despite appearing in our circle. What are you coming for? Oops, don't touch it because it's sanctified so that it loses power when touched by people other than me. It seems that it is in good condition, but the fine patterns drawn on the surface of the plate have rust everywhere. It turns out that it is quite old. Please do something like that. Otherwise, I'm not confident that I can go home very safely. I would like to say that mail order is enough for amateurs, but the other party is bad. Kayasuk thrust his head into the closet and searched for it for a while, but he said yes, and he put out a slightly distorted plate. Troll's Grimoire Talisman. Well, this is also a talisman. I'll lend you. I won't give it to you, because it's quite valuable. Anything is fine. Better than nothing. I was thankful for it and hung it around my neck. Do all people who like black magic have this kind of thing? I will have it if necessary. Many amateurs have it even though it is not necessary. Kyoko said, and asked again in a rephrased form. Does that person also have it? I had it. I don't know if I still have it. He's exceptional. Kayasuk naturally spit and said. When I was shown for the first time, my legs were abandoned. I still feel chills. When I hear that, I get scared. It seems that his father was a collector of such curse, and he gave his daughter something like that. It's natural that her personality is distorted. Kayasuk didn't tell me the details, just to instigate. He just wrote the part that he managed to hear. It has a shape that should not be in this world, and the expression talisman on a 5-color map. It is hard to tell from there what purpose it is for. I felt like I was pulling my shoes. It seems that he was mischievous with a contagious magic, but it would be okay if he didn't search for anything strange anymore. Kayasuk promised that, but what I thought was only a means of play called black magic. I felt unbelievable and mysterious fear of trying to do some harm to reality. The body trembles asexually. The best thing is not to believe. There is no such thing. It's okay if you live while thinking that it's because of your mind. Kayasuk dented a can of beer and threw it into the trash can. It's not so easy. Because, from the time I started talking about Kyoko Masaki's talisman, my sensory organs were reacting to something unusual. I feel that I can now understand the discomfort when Kayasuk boarded the second science room. His body trembled and tears came out. I clenched the talisman I had just borrowed and courageously said it. Doesn't it smell like blood? I feel that there is a faint, nostalgic and terrifying offensive odor in the room. With a cold look that Kyoko never showed today, she said, that's not the case. No, it smells like blood. I'm not at a loss. But Kayasuk hit me with a goo on my head. Don't worry. Kayasuk, who doesn't break his expression, is staring at me, who seems to be confused because I don't understand why. I'm on my period. I didn't laugh and looked at the face that said so, but I couldn't read its authenticity. Autumn of the first year of university. I went to Kayasuk's house to return the talisman who had been borrowed. I'm grateful to follow the unexpectedly serious tone of Take It Still. By the way, I heard it. Rumors of hooking the Impreza of my car on the guardrail were flowing to my ears. Kayasuk just nodded. Because the beginner Mark is driving unreasonably. He seems to be confident in his bike's arm, so he may not be satisfied without speeding up. But why did you suddenly get a car license? Kayasuk was a biker, but before he knew it, he got a car license on a short-term intensive course. He was buying a used sports car with a loan. Maybe he started riding a motorcycle. A mysterious answer was returned. I realized that he was Kyoko Masaki. But what does that mean? Twins, whether they want it or not, they look like each other, and that will last a lifetime. It can't be helped if it was fate. What if a non-twin person is afraid to look like his opponent? It seems to be Kyoko Masaki and Kayasuke. It's been a long time ago. Because he called his father a dad, I came to call him a father. I'm Pepsi because he drinks Coca-Cola. I know. Even if you think that such superficial resistance is meaningless, your body naturally behaves differently. No, there really is no punchline to be a sister. I don't like it anyway. Somehow, at the soul level. I cut my hair when I graduated from high school because he started to grow. I put my palm on the head of the shortcut and said, I still understand. Even if you're trying to do something, you know when he's ahead. It seems to be the opposite of the mysterious feeling of twins that the same place hurts even if they are far apart. But the opposite would be the same after all. Kayasuke murmured like a soliloquy. Don't look at it with a funny face. You're right. His finger was pointed. If you think your attitude has become arrogant lately, that's what it is. I am convinced by myself. What does it mean? When did you start saying me? Doken, I felt her heart made a loud noise. Maybe that metamorphosis said I was. That's it. He didn't realize it himself. Maybe that is the case. You should stay away from that metamorphosis. I get unpleasant sweat. I'm silently looking at my face. Well, that's fine. If you have no use, go home. I'm going to take a bath now. I felt like I couldn't say anything, and I tried to go to the front door with a heavy footstep. Suddenly, I come up with something that I was interested in. Why is the handle name Kayasuke ? I thought it wasn't necessary to ask. Maybe the vectors can't be named differently at all. Kyoko and Kayasuke. The exact opposite and the same. The soul chooses it. However, Kayasuke squeezed his facial expression and said it was boring. I'm a fan. Incredibly, it seems to be a shy face. When I asked back, what? I'm a fan of Bowie. I blew involuntarily. No, nothing is wrong. This is the most natural way to give a handle name. However, Kayasuke adds with his face twitching. I also like BZ. The reason I didn't make it Inaba, maybe it's no fate. I muttered and waved my palm to me when I got home.